Hey, today we're making
niggers.
First we have black.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty black.
Yeah. Next we have don't have a dad.
Don't have a dad? Yeah.
Yeah. And then we have eat watermelon and fried chicken.
Fried chicken and watermelon? Yeah, that's pretty good.
That's
Next one is make good choices. Let's see.
There's nothing there. Next we have rob people.
Specifically whites. Yeah, they do that.
Last one is
go to jail.
You scared of your heartbeat. You're scared of your heartbeat. I'm right here. I see your heartbeat, nigga. What's that?
I'm angry, bro. I'm angry. I got money to make. Weirdo.
What's that? Bitch ass nigga. You a
umbrella. She's up. Whole nother level of shit you can't even understand.
What is good, my people? We are live back again with another episode of The Forecast. Now, I don't know what it's going to take for us on a collective level to understand that we are at war. If hundreds of years of our blood being shed isn't enough, I don't know what it's going to take. And today, unlike generations before us, we also suffer from the illusion of inclusion. We went inside that burning building and we're still fighting for a seat at the table, even though everything around us is on fire. And just for a chance to have hope of getting a seat at the table, you have to compromise who you are. America and the world and the system itself made it radical for black people to talk about defending themselves. They say they fear that we might do something to justify actually doing what they fear that we might do. Yet when we talk about what was actually done to us, that is the hateful part. Because anything designed to empower us goes against the system. But it doesn't matter because at some point we have to start protecting ourselves. When people start to understand that it's consequences when they harm you, then they're going to start thinking twice about it. But if they know all you're going to do is cry and then march and then beg for justice and then still never get it, they have no fear and they feel like they can do whatever they want anytime. And so they try it. In Chattanooga, Tennessee, back in 1980, there was a riot. And it started after 3 KKK members drove down a street full of black businesses, now known as Martin Luther King Boulevard. And then these gang members deliberately opened fire on 5 elderly black women. Now, 4 of them were wounded and another one was injured by flying glass because these thugs shot out her daughter's car windows. But then they took off after they shot at these 5 elderly black women. Now, eventually, these 3 Klan members were arrested. But then when it went to trial, an all-white jury acquitted them. Now, when the word about the verdict started to get out, people got mad and they started to come outside and protest. And eventually the police was sent in. But when they were sent in, they weren't expecting to be met with gunfire. So then for the next 3 nights, the people were fed up and they started rioting. They were using firebombs, overturning cars, looting stores. And when people say black people attack stores in their own community, it's not like they own those stores. They're attacking white-owned or other-owned businesses, not black-owned businesses. They're not burning down their own businesses like they try to portray it. And by the end of the riot, at least 9 cops were shot. And this was one of the few times that more cops got injured than protesters. And the people forced the police to start retreating. And in order to save face, they had to call in people like Jesse Jackson to propose an idea to black ministers and other volunteers to organize their own peace patrol to patrol their own neighborhoods instead of the police. Now, eventually, those 5 women did file the first ever lawsuit against the KKK in the case Crumsley versus Justice Knights of the KKK. And those black women eventually won using the KKK Act of 1871. But the point is, it doesn't matter if it's 1920, 1980, or today. We cannot continue to be getting caught off guard when we are at war. In Indiana, a brother Demarcus Walker was beaten to death by a random white boy at Walmart. Now let's go back and see what happened to this brother.
This all happened right over here. He says he didn't actually see the man get hit, but he heard it. And then he ran over, and when he got there, the suspect was beating the victim with a bat.
Yeah, that was part of our coverage live on Facebook Saturday at the Apple Glen Walmart. Tonight, for the first time, we're learning more about the victim, Demarcus Walker. Police say he's an innocent man who was simply out running some errands on a Saturday morning, and his family members say he stopped by the Walmart to just pick up a couple items.
Like we all do all the time, right? As he left, police say a man in a ski mask drove his car into Walker on purpose, then jumped out of the car and beat Walker with a bat. Police say it was random. The suspect had never met the victim before. Now the family wants answers about why.
When it's your family directly, it's a different type of pain.
Zykeria Walker says it was her dad who was beaten here in the Apple Glen Walmart parking lot. And she has some questions for the suspect.
It was 10-something in the morning. And why so early? Why in that day? Like, what was going through your head?
One witness I talked with, who we're not showing his face, says he heard the impact when the suspect hit Walker with his car. He ran over to help, but he couldn't believe what happened next.
When out of nowhere, the guy started beating the guy on the ground with a metal bat.
The injury's so bad, Walker had to be flown down to an Indy hospital. He's still unable to talk and tell police or family what happened. Police arrested 21-year-old Levi Arnold from Bluffton. Zykeria says her family had never seen him before.
It was just sad to see my dad like that. It's just, I couldn't imagine something like that happening to my father. Like, why target my dad?
But she is not the only one trying to figure out why the suspect picked her dad to attack in this parking lot. Her family is now leaning on police and the NAACP.
We want justice, pure justice.
Larry Gist is on the local NAACP Legal Redress Committee. He says he's been in touch with the police chief.
He's a fair man. And I told him that I have a special interest in this case because of the family.
They say they want the police to zero in on the suspect's motive.
I think it felt like it was a hate crime. It had to be. The way I understand is in the paper that he's walking around Walmart riding with a ski mask on looking for people to beat up.
In the meantime, Zykeria will travel back and forth to Indy to be by her father's side as he fights to recover.
That's my main concern right now, is my dad and my family to heal, especially him. And then after that, justice and the right sentencing.
A police spokesperson says they haven't turned up evidence that indicates this was a hate crime, but detectives, the family, and the NAACP say they will continue to press for more information.
Now, this was random, and it could have been any one of us. But this brother Demarcus Walker just went to Walmart on a Saturday morning to pick up a few things, just minding his business, doing whatever he had to do. And apparently this white boy, Levi Arnold, was just riding around the parking lot with a ski mask on. And somebody saw him and called 911. But then all of a sudden, this white boy just randomly swerved and hit this brother Demarcus Walker with his car. And then while this brother was on the ground, he got out of his car and started hitting his brother with a metal bat. And he kept hitting his brother until a witness, who happened to be armed, pulled out his gun. And this white boy just ran away. And like I always say, if somebody come into a community and they know everybody surrounding them or a lot of people surrounding them is always strapped, they gonna start thinking twice about doing stuff like this. Because when you violate, it comes with repercussions. But then this white boy took off in his car, which didn't have any license plates on it, and was able to evade police in the parking lot. But eventually they caught him and they arrested him. And his brother Demarcus Walker was taken to the hospital, but eventually he died from his injuries.
First, though, an update tonight on a Fort Wayne tragedy. Demarcus Walker has died. He's the Fort Wayne man who was run over by a car in the Walmart parking lot. Police say the driver of that car did it on purpose. Then they say the driver beat Walker with a baseball bat. Fort Wayne's NBC reporter Louis Tran talked with family members today. He joins us live in the studio with an update on that. Louis?
Tom, Walker's brother tells me Walker was a family man who worked hard and cared for his family. He says the family wants justice and to understand why him.
On Saturday, March 7th, this happened.
He heard a man get hit by a car.
Police say Levi Arnold drove his car into 44-year-old Demarcus Walker, then got out and beat Walker with a bat.
Couldn't believe it.
Saturday,
I got the phone call early.
Family members say Walker passed away after battling his injuries.
Indescribable to be able to put into words the amount of pain that everybody in my family and his friends are feeling right now.
That's Demarcus's younger brother, Derek Walker. He says his older brother was simply running an errand at Walmart.
Just to buy jogging pants and body wash.
When he got hit, he says he can't understand why this happened and why someone would do this to a complete stranger.
Who would do such a thing to a guy who doesn't bother anyone?
Walker says he looked up to his older brother, describing him as a family man.
His 2 daughters and his unborn child, who now have to grow up without a father.
A father who was willing to go the extra mile for his loved ones.
It doesn't matter if it was a sibling, whether it was an aunt, an uncle, a cousin. He'll drop whatever he's doing and he'll go help.
Willing to do anything to help. Now, his family seeking answers and justice.
We just want proper justice. Proper justice and proper accountability. Make sure this does not fall to the wayside.
Again, family members and police say the suspect picked someone at random. The family believes hate was a motivation, and they say Demarcus's funeral service will take place tomorrow.
Now, no one seems to know why this white boy did this. He just randomly picked a black man to hit with a car and then get out and beat with a bat. And this white boy was eventually arrested and charged with resisting in a vehicle, aggravated assault, and attempted murder. Now, Demarcus Walker family want this white boy charged with a hate crime. But the police said they can't find any evidence that he's racist or that this incident was racialized in any way. They said since they haven't found any racist propaganda, they can't say that this was based off race in any kind of way. He just happened to choose a random black man to hit with his car. But because he doesn't have a Nazi symbol tattooed on his forehead, the police can't say it has anything to do with race at all.
The man beaten outside of a Fort Wayne Walmart in early March has died. 44-year-old Demarcus Walker passed away this morning, just over a month after he was beaten by a masked man in the parking lot of the Apple Glen Walmart. Fort Wayne police say the suspect, 21-year-old Levi Arnold, just snapped. Now, I spoke with Walker's father this morning, and he says this is a very, very painful loss.
My son means the world to me, and I love him, and I would do anything in the world for him. Hurt real bad. It's bothering, it hurts. I'm losing my son. This is my second son I lost in 3 years.
The family told Fox 55 News last month that they believe that this was a hate crime and all they're hoping for is justice in his death.
He was beaten outside of a Fort Wayne Walmart last month. Now police say he is dead. Could that mean more charges for the man police say is responsible? Wayne 15's Brianna Brownlee joins us now with more.
Back in early March, Demarcus Walker was hit by a car and then beaten with a baseball bat outside of Apple Glen's Walmart. The victim was taken to the hospital where he was fighting for his life, but this past weekend he was confirmed dead. 21-year-old Levi Arnold was arrested and charged with an attempted murder. That day, police were called because of a report of a suspicious person that was driving around the parking lot in a burgundy Chevy Impala wearing a black ski mask. By the time police arrived, the suspect was gone. Earlier, I did speak with Fort Wayne's police department and asked if there will be any additional charges since the victim is now deceased. And according to FWPD, it is still too early to confirm.
Right now, we are going to wait until the coroner's report comes out. I know it sounds like kind of weird that we have to wait when that happens, but, you know, we have to apply legal principles to this, so we have to know what the cause of death was, and then we'll go over that with the prosecutor's office and find out if any additional charges or different charges are warranted.
Now, Sergeant Rosales-Catina did say that she hopes the family receives the justice that they deserve. She also asked for the community to be patient.
Now, the only time America asks for patience is when our blood is shed. And now they're trying to go with the crazy white boy narrative, saying he just snapped. And this brother Demarcus Walker was fine at Walmart running some errands when he was randomly hit by a car, then beaten with a metal bat. But they're trying to act like they can't figure out how he died. I guess they're going to try to say it was some other cause. And they have to wait for the autopsy to determine if this was murder. And even though this brother died after this attack, I don't know if they ever upgraded the charges from attempted murder. They knew enough to charge him with attempted murder, but after he dies, they don't know enough to charge him with the actual murder. But that's because they stay on code, and they have to disassociate themselves in this day and age because they have to keep this illusion of inclusion. But it doesn't matter what other people say or think about us. We have to be ready to protect ourselves. Like that random witness who happened to be armed at Walmart, who stopped this beating from being even worse, even though this brother died. He would think twice before trying it in the first place if he knew several people were armed in that group. And when America starts seeing black people arming themselves in that rate, they changed the laws around the Second Amendment. But at the end of the day, we are all we got. And until we start protecting ourselves, protecting each other, then the same things will keep happening over and over.
Morning. How are you, sir? Deputy Snell with the Sampson County Sheriff's Office. You got your license and registration on you?
I do. Okay. All right, may I ask what the stop is for, sir?
I'll let you know as soon as you give me your ID. Who you work for there? Your shirt.
Delmar Oil Company.
Delmar Oil Company?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How long you been there?
May I ask why that is?
Well, I'm just talking to you. I see your shirt there. I'm just asking. Is it wrong to ask you questions about where you work?
Well, I'm just trying to figure out what that has to do with the stop.
Okay. All right. Well, if you don't want, just casual conversation, that's fine.
Since
I got you stopped there, you're driving 65, and speed limit 70. I'm just wondering what's wrong. Are you okay?
Other than,
you okay? You ain't
traveling 5 miles below the speed limit.
Yes, sir. I'm just checking on you. That's all I'm doing. Okay.
Yes, sir.
You good?
I'm great.
Awesome.
How are you?
I'm doing better than I deserve. Where are you coming from now?
Where am I coming from?
Yes, sir.
Goldsboro.
Goldsboro. Is that where the office is?
I'm trying to understand what's the relation.
Do what?
I'm trying to understand the relation to the traffic stop.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out where you're coming from, where you're going, mess like that.
So I have to identify where I'm traveling to and from during the traffic
stop?
All right,
hang tight here just a minute, buddy.
I don't understand. Like, what the fuck is going on? Like, you telling me I gotta identify to you where I going to and coming from? Like, that don't make sense, bro. Yeah, like, and then shit in here, bro. Ain't nothing in here, so I'm not worried about that. But this shit is ridiculous, man. I'm tired of it. Every time I come down here, them boys do that shit. Every time I come down, and then I could have tell how he jumped behind me, like, bro, you tripping. You tripping, my nigga. Like, you tripping, dog. Word, this man wrote me a ticket, bro. Like, what could you possibly have wrote me a ticket for? Yes, sir.
Videos there. This here's a warning, okay? No court date, no fine, nothing like that. You can throw this paper away when you get to the house. Ain't nothing to really worry about, all right?
Okay, what was the warning for?
All right. Have a good day, all right?
What was the warning for, sir? I'm trying to understand what the warning is for.
It's for traveling under the speed limit, okay?
What, how fast
you were traveling? What you say is kind of suspicious to travel under the speed limit when the speed limit is 70.
Well, from my perspective, I was traveling at 68.
I'm not going to argue. I got stuff to do, okay? Have a good day.
I did too when you stopped me, so I'm trying to understand. I'm trying
have
to,
a good
so I don't make the same infraction. I'm trying to understand.
How you doing, sir?
How you doing, man?
You have your driver's license fingerprints on you?
What's going on?
I'll be happy to tell you once I see who I'm talking to, all right?
I need you to let me know, like, what's going on, like, what happened?
Like I said, I'd be happy to tell you once I see information.
I'm not giving you my information until you tell me what you pulled me over for.
All right, sir. Failure to give me my information is an arrestable offense, okay? So you can either do this the easy way or the hard way, all right?
I need to know what you're pulling me over for.
I'm going to tell you once I see information, all right?
I got information, but I'm not giving you my information until you tell me what you're supposed to do.
Here's the deal. Either give me your ID or you go to jail. How about that?
Put this on camera, man, because we're not dealing with this.
Give me your ID.
I need to know why you putting me over.
Give him your ID.
Detail 5 radio. I'll be on the stop, entrance to the parks. Can you send me another car? I have a uncooperative occupant. Last chance.
I need to know why you putting me
Give
over.
him your ID.
My tag's expired and my lights off.
I'd be happy to tell you, sir. Are you a lawyer, sir?
Hey, I'm representing myself right now.
Okay.
Because to be honest with you, I have a right to remain silent, right? So I could just sit here and ignore you.
No, you can't, sir.
I don't answer any questions.
Okay. Well, it's going to turn out very poorly for you.
It's fine, but you're not telling me what's going on, and that ain't right.
I'm gonna tell you what the deal is. You're probably suspended, so you don't want to give me your license.
So, am I free to go?
No, you're not free to go. This is an investigatory stop, all right? All right, here's the deal.
For all I know, you could be trying to kill me right now.
You're absolutely ridiculous, all right?
I don't care.
All right,
Because
step out of the car.
It's been 2 minutes. I'm not stepping out the car until you tell me what's going on.
All right, open the door.
Hey, put this on camera. Put this on camera. You gotta let me know what's going on, man. You're not going there.
You're going to jail is what's going on.
For what? You ain't... What charges? On what charges? Wow.
Get out of the car now.
Get out of the car, man.
Get out of the car.
Get out of the car.
Get out of the car.
Let me get out of the car.
Okay, get out.
Get out of the car!
You ain't getting out of the car. Get out of the car now. Get out of the car. On the ground. Put your hand behind your back. Your hands, man. Put your hand behind your back.
At a meeting earlier this week, the Fort Lauderdale Police Department dropped a bombshell. The racist video and text messages exchanged by 4 police officers would not cause them to lose their law enforcement certifications. CBS 4's Carrie Cott has done some digging on this, and he joins us live outside the Fort Lauderdale Police Department with more. Carrie.
Rick, it all boils down to this: whether the officer's actions violated one of the moral character violations in this state statute. I called the Florida Department of Law Enforcement earlier today. They sent me this list, and on here it appears that none of the offenses listed in this state statute cover racism by officers. After seeing this racist video that we're told was created by former Fort Lauderdale police officer Alex Alvarez and a series of racist text messages shared between Alvarez and 3 other officers, many in the community assume that in addition to losing their jobs with the Fort Lauderdale Police Department, the officers would probably lose their law enforcement certifications as well. But the community learned at a Citizens Police Review Board meeting Monday that was not the case.
We were told, no, it's not considered a moral character violation because it's not one of the listed statutes.
Fort Lauderdale police say the Florida Department of Law Enforcement determined the officers' actions were not covered by a state statute concerning moral character violations that could lead to punishment or revocation of their certifications. That means that Officer Alex Alvarez, Officer Christopher Souza, Officer Jason Holding, and Officer James Wells could seek work elsewhere. Community activist Roosevelt Walters is incredulous.
If this doesn't rise to that occasion, I don't know what will.
Walters said he also cannot understand why the city of Fort Lauderdale hasn't sent the internal affairs documents to FDLE to let them review the case and see the allegations about the video and texts for themselves.
If they haven't got the paperwork, what do we expect for them to do?
Mayor Jack Seiler says the police department has every intention of sharing the details of their investigation with FDLE, but he believes no matter the outcome, this video and the texts mean those 4 officers have likely little chance of being hired anywhere.
If you're a mayor, if you're a police chief, if you're a city manager, and you look at the actions of these officers, they will not be working for your department.
For Roosevelt Walters, though, it's simple.
And we cannot have officers out here supposedly protecting us who hate us.
Mayor Seiler told me he would like to see this state statute amended to cover some sort of provision covering racism or discrimination by police officers. The Florida Department of Law Enforcement tells me they don't have any disciplinary cases regarding these 4 officers at this time, and that when and if they get the documents from Fort Lauderdale on this case, they will review all the allegations thoroughly.
Blue for the black.
and too black for the blue.
Shocking new allegations tonight out of the city of Warren, where a police officer says her brothers in blue refused to back her up on crime scenes because of the color of her skin. Officer Sheila Howlett has filed a lawsuit alleging multiple racial problems at the police department in a city where the mayor has been under fire for months.
We're talking about Jim Fouts, of course, accused of insensitive racial remarks. Defender Kevin Deitch joins us with an exclusive interview with Officer Howlett.
Growing up, Sheila Howlett was a good student and a good athlete who always wanted to be a police officer. First working for the city of Detroit, then Oak Park, before accepting an offer to be the first African-American police officer ever hired in the city of Warren.
I took on the challenge, and to be honest, I assumed that in time, if I had good work ethic and just being a decent overall person, that they would get to know me for me.
She never imagined that in the following 10 years, no other African-Americans would be hired. Warren is the third largest city in Michigan with 134,000 residents and more than 250 police officers. 13.5% of residents are African American, but Sheila Howlett is the only black police officer. She says from the start it wasn't easy, and instead of improving, it got worse. From racially insensitive remarks about African American names.
Why do you guys name your children ghetto names? And then the example will be given. DEESTINEE.
To racial remarks about food at lunch.
Hey, Holly, what you got today? Chicken and ribs?
To racially charged stereotypes.
I was compared to the gorilla, and people just don't understand the history of a black person and why that's so demeaning.
Officer Howlett persevered until she realized her life might be in danger. She was warned by a dispatcher that other officers were slow to give her backup on crime scenes.
So the cavalry's coming for everyone else as fast as possible. And so it's like the grace of God that when I was out there, that I hadn't been hurt.
The final straw, a coworker using the N-word in front of her when an African-American resident was upset in the lobby.
She started screaming, that N-word, that N-word. She was like, he would have killed me if the bulletproof glass wasn't there.
Then that coworker realized Sheila was in the room.
So after I looked back at her, she was like, but not you.
Officer Howlett says it hurts, physically, mentally, emotionally.
I started to sweat, my heart started beating really fast because it was just so overwhelming.
Sheila Howlett says she just wants to answer her calling to be a police officer, to help make the community safer while working in a department that doesn't see black or white, only blue.
To make myself so small for them is a horrible thing to admit and say, that I've allowed myself to be tolerated.
Officer Howlett says she had hoped that she would be able to break down racial barriers in the city of Warren and open doors for others. Now she says her lawsuit will force the city to hire more minorities and to be more accepting of everyone.
New recordings leaked today, allegedly of Warren Mayor Jim Fouts saying terrible things about African Americans and women.
Of course, this just weeks after the other controversial recordings in which he allegedly was ripping people with disabilities. Tonight, Fouts says it is not him.
Mara McDonald is live tonight with new information on this leak. Mara, what have you learned?
Good evening to you, Karen, and Devin and I can confirm this for you. The person who recorded Mayor Fouts in his office for that first leak is not the person who recorded this, which tells us one key thing. Before all this, we knew that there were 3 people who said they had audio tapes of the mayor. Now we've got an unknown 4th.
If the sound bites are really his voice, yeah, he's in trouble.
The second round of trouble hit just as Mayor Fouts was in public at an MLK event in Warren. The audio recordings were leaked to MotorCityMuckraker.com, turning the event into chaos.
Did you consider us as black chimpanzees?
On these audio clips, a voice which sounds like Fouts uses the N-word.
I remember this one kid in my class, I told you some years ago, he said, we have a party store. He says, my dad have rules. What are they? Only 2 at a time.
Goes on to say black people are like chimpanzees.
You know, blacks do look like chimpanzees. I was watching this black woman with her daughter, and they look like 2 chimps. They're mouth's very elongated out, you know, duckish look.
In a Facebook rant, Fouts says this isn't him. An audio expert we went to says it's inconclusive, simply because the samples are not large and we don't have the original recordings to listen to. I have been told the person who recorded this is a former employee, and these are excerpts of conversations recorded over a period of time. The source of these audio leaks is not the same as the first, and it leaves the people who live here just shaking their heads. Pastor Mo Hardwick, who had a one-on-one with Fouts when the first audio recording was leaked, is absolutely furious after this second one.
This man not only needs to be out of office, he needs to be locked up in a cage. He needs a mental institution. There's something wrong with this mayor.
It's too close to home for Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms. CBS 46's Bobeth Yates has the hate-filled message sent to the mayor and to her 12-year-old son.
Imagine picking up your phone only to find a message that threatens your very being. That's what Mayor Bottoms says happened to her, but she says she will not let it threaten her to reopen the city prematurely.
I had a very long conversation with Ambassador Young this morning. And he just reminded me that white supremacy is a sickness.
During the commission meeting, Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms addressed a shocking tweet she received calling her the N-word. The message, which came from the email reopen@georgia.gov, went on to say shut up and reopen Atlanta. But it wasn't just the offensive wording in the message that caught the mayor off guard.
Not only did I receive it, but my 12-year-old son received it as well, so that was more concerning to me.
But the mayor and her son weren't the only ones exposed to the graphic message. In her reply, she wrote, "With my daughter looking over my shoulder, I received this message to my phone. I pray for you." She then went on to quote Dr. Martin Luther King, saying conscientious stupidity or sincere ignorance. So CBS 46 reached out to Reopen Georgia. And while they did speak to me over the phone, they declined an interview, but sent the following statement. #Reopen Georgia is appalled to learn a text with a racist message was sent to Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms in our name. Not only did we not send the apparent message, but we stand together with Mayor Bottoms in condemning racism and hate speech. As for Mayor Bottoms, she says this threat won't stop her.
Cowards don't run for office, so I will continue to use my voice to speak on behalf of our community. Children should be off limits as it relates to any and everything.
We're told officials are looking into the matter to figure out exactly where the message came from.
The Miami Police Department is under fire after a video surfaced of an officer handcuffing and detaining an African-American doctor outside his home on Friday. The man, Armin Anderson, was wearing a mask and preparing for a volunteer shift, helping protect homeless people from the spread of COVID-19 when a patrol car pulled up to his home. Surveillance video from Dr. Henderson's house shows him loading a van with supplies before the encounter. Dr. Henderson says the police officer handcuffed him after accusing him of littering and then asking for identification, which Henderson did not have on him. The officer was not wearing a mask. Dr. Henderson was. He had to yell to his wife inside their home to present identification before the officer finally released him. On Saturday, Miami Police Chief has ordered an internal investigation into the incident. The officer involved has not been identified. The encounter sparked widespread outrage and comes as African-American men report fears of increased racial profiling when they're following the CDC's suggestion that people wear masks in public.
Only us? Only us? You're not allowed to go in? No. Well, I can go in. You can? Yeah, excuse me. I can go in and they cannot. Come on. They can. Right? Okay. Check. Oh my God. This is ridiculous. I'm sorry, I cannot help you. Really. Oh my God.
City leaders in southern China are denying allegations of coronavirus racism, insisting that foreigners are not being discriminated against. Africans living in Guangzhou say that they're being kicked out of their homes and face harassment as health workers step up testing for imported infections. The African Union, Nigeria and Ghana are calling on the Chinese government to address concerns. Professor Keith Richberg is the director of the Journalism and Media Studies Center at the University of Hong Kong. He says there has been discrimination against Africans living in China for some time now.
Ever since Xi Jinping announced that the virus was essentially contained in China and that they could start reopening businesses and reopening factories, the numbers have been going up, but they've been blaming all of those new numbers, those new cases and the new deaths in China on what they call imported cases, meaning that they've contained it in China, but people coming back into the country are bringing it along. It smacks a bit of xenophobia to me, because number one, most of these so-called imported cases are Chinese nationals who left at Chinese New Year and are just now returning, or returning from schools abroad, et cetera. So these aren't foreigners, these are Chinese who are bringing in with the virus. And secondly, they've been given really no statistics to prove that the real numbers of people coming in with the virus are actually foreigners at all. But that's kind of the narrative or the storyline that they'd like to say, is that all of these new cases are all from foreigners. They've even restricted foreign diplomats from coming back into Beijing, for example. China has always had this kind of complex relationship with Africa, whereas officially, they see the African countries as brothers. Lately, China has put a lot of development money into Africa. They built the African Union headquarters. They built the railroad from Nairobi to Mombasa. But and as a consequence of these tens of thousands or millions of Chinese living in Africa, you also have a lot of African traders, African students who have gone over to China. And so officially, on an official level, there's this kind of feeling of fraternity. On the ground level, people to people, the Chinese simply don't like them very much. They're basically there's a lot of racism. I've been to Guangzhou. I've been to that area that they call Little Africa, or more derogatorily, they call it the Chocolate City. The Africans tell me they feel discriminated against by the Chinese.
Oh.
Brenda Diaz at the adult triage window. Brenda Diaz at the adult triage window.
Brenda, your Bruce Lee ass over there. I'm putting you from the clock. Straight the fuck up. All that talking on your shit ain't finna work. Right here, yeah.
Oh.
You ain't doing nothing. You called me out, so stand up. I called you out. No, you didn't. Stand up. You sat your ass down. That's what you did. If you called me out, you would stand up. Nah, please.
Oh.
They got real about mine. Hey, look. I'm real about mine. Let's go, man.
Sedate that motherfucker right there. Sedate his ass. I got everything on tape. Sedate him. Sedate him. Sedate the nigga. Him right there, down here. Yep, get that one.
Hang on.
Mm-mm. You see why this is why. These motherfuckers want to act like this. Acting like a real dude. Like, damn. Ain't nobody even said nothing to you, sir. Sedate him. Sedate him.
Just chill. Relax. Listen up. Be quiet. You need to come over here now. Listen up. Come over here now. Come over here. Every stop in over here, look at me, I get over and he's looking at me, the same shit. No. You're just acting. I will get him. Hang on. Don't look over. I'll get him. I'm trying to keep you from having I'm doing. No, come on. You're acting. It doesn't matter. We've separated. You've been watching me. Look at me. Smoke that. Right over here. Staring at me. Stop watching me. It's not. I'm not saying you did anything.